All right, welcome back to the Clack Shack again, guys. And I'm gonna try to make a quick video. I'm gonna try to be concise and to the point on this because I've had a lot of people that are still struggling with the jig kit that I make, and I don't understand why. But so I'm gonna go over this in basically a step 1, 2, 3, and we're gonna lay it out, and I'm gonna walk you through it, show you how it works, and verify to everybody the process works, guys. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff out there about having to put a dot on your jig and use exact coordinates, absolute coordinates, and all that. But with this setup, guys, if you've got an accurate machine that is consistent, it's so much easier. You don't have to do that. So I'm going to start you off, and we're going to walk through the whole process, and I'm going to give you step by step. So follow along. If you're using this jig, follow along, and I hope this helps answer the questions for you. So stick around. All right, guys. Of course, step 1 is going to be to cut out the locking panel. The locking panel is the part that has the teeth on it that attaches to your laser, whichever laser it may be. I've got like 3 or 4 kits now, I think, that are available to the public that fit different machines. This is the most recent version here. This is on the Enjoy Wood that I've been trying out. And so the first step is get your locking panel, all right? Once you get your locking panel, you can either go ahead and put it on there, or you can wait until you get everything cut and do it then. That's user preference on that. There's no specific rhyme or reason that you've got to do it either way. So once you have that on there, the next thing you're going to need is a jig panel itself. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just going to go in Lightburn because that's the software that I use. And I'm going to open up my Lightburn file that contains a jig panel. Now, for the sake of time saving, I'm not going to be doing any of the big panels. I'm going to grab one of the smaller ones. That way we can get this over with pretty quick, but that way you'll understand the process. Because I think some folks are trying to make the jig panels and then put the jig on it before they attach it. So I want to make sure we're clear on how that's supposed to happen. So the next step, and I'm just going to do a 12 by 12 jig panel. It's small, it won't take too long to burn, and it'll still be effective for what we're trying to do here. Now, I'm doing this on this Enjoy Wood, so my text, of course, is going to be backwards because of the way that X-Tool and other machines differentiate. So I'm just going to flip that over so that the text is oriented properly. And I'm going to go ahead and burn that panel. Now, I'm going to try to get video from the machine as well as the computer at the same time to try to help everybody out. Like I said, I'm not real sure what the problem is, but we're gonna try to nip that in the bud today. The audio on my computer may not be as good as usual, guys, because I'm going to be using my mic for the camera. But so here we are, ready to burn. I'm going to go ahead. I've got this set up. I'm not even going to fool with doing the text on this one because I just need the panel for this demonstration. I'm going to confirm the speed is adequate enough to make this cut. I do know that this machine will cut this material in 2 passes. So I'm going to run 7 millimeters per second for 2 passes, and I'm going to go ahead and frame that out. So all you've got to do, guys, you've got to get your panel to use to make this file to. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm fixing to just get this machine to run this burn and cut out this panel. This is a 12 by 12 panel. And I'm going to let that cut. So for the sake of my batteries and my camera and video length, I am just going to take and let this burn, and I will be back with y'all here shortly. All right, guys, it's finishing up on the cut, and I just want to take the opportunity while we're watching this burn and waiting on it to finish. The enclosure's working pretty well with the with the Comgrow smoke purifier. Uh, it, it, I forgot to turn the purifier on in the beginning, and it was obvious that I needed it, and so I went over and turned it on, and it's keeping the smoke down to a minimum now. But I want to go ahead and point out to you too, notice once this machine finishes, I use a preset return to location when I'm doing multiple items. When this cut finishes, this machine, even though the home location is down here in the bottom left corner, when this cut completes, this machine will go up there to my resting position, which is in the top left corner. That gets it out of my workspace so that I don't have to reach across it or under it or anything like that to put up another blank or another board or whatever it is that I'm doing. So that is very critical when doing these things. It makes the world of difference. So as long as it cut through, which it's been cutting this stuff in 2 passes, we should have us a jig panel now. But it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to run 3 passes on this guy since it doesn't have an air assist for those knots, but it got it done. So step 1, recapping guys, step 1 was to cut your locking panel and take your locking panel and either put it to the side or you can go ahead and put it in place. Once you do that, then you cut out your jig panel, okay? This is the jig panel. This is not a jig file, this is a jig panel. So you're gonna take your jig panel. This is a 12 by 12. It'll rest anywhere on these teeth you wanna put it. My recommendation is make sure you remember where you put your 12 by 12s. That way you can always put it in the same location. I'm gonna do all the way to the right with this 12 by 12 because that keeps me away from the laser head. And it also, I know that if I go all the way to the right and I put it in that same location every time, my jig file will be accurate. Okay, the next part is gonna be on the computer. We're gonna have to go in and we're gonna have to generate the file that is going to be our jig on this panel. So what I'm gonna do, just for the sake of demonstration, guys, is I'm gonna take and make a, I guess I can make a pet tag jig because I need one that does more than just one pet tag. But I don't want to waste a lot of pet tags. That's the problem here with showing this is I gotta burn up some material. So I'm gonna do circle tags because I can make some little clack shack keychains. That'll work. So we're gonna use the circles that I do. I've got. Let me get my little box of treasures over here and get my blanks out. These are something that I carry when I do shows or whatnot. Normally I don't have a whole lot of them with my logo on them, but since they're not really a hot selling item all the time, it wouldn't hurt for me to burn up a few of these. So what I'm gonna do, I've got these guys right here, guys. These are just little keychain like tags. You can use these as luggage tags, property tags. If you own a fleet of vehicles, you could actually put, now that silver one, we're gonna lay that to the side. You could actually put whatever you want to on these things, okay? They're cheap, they're easy, and they're quick. They make really good little party favors when you go out and do these events and stuff. So what I'm gonna do, because I have a bunch of dynamics here, I've got to build this jig. So I've got a circle, so it'll turn any way it wants to, but I've also got a hole in the top. So I'm gonna need to accomplish 2 things. I'm gonna need to have a jig that will accommodate this little circle, but I'm also gonna need to have a jig that will help me make sure I've got this thing at a 90 degree when I put it in there. That's gonna be my concerns for this build on this file. So I'm gonna turn this off for a moment and move over to the computer, and I'm gonna show you how I go about creating the jig. Now you can buy my jigs already made, but I'm gonna show you from scratch in case you're trying to make something for some little odd something like this, you'll understand the process. So stick around for a minute. All right, guys, I'm trying to turn off all the stuff around me. I got all the fans turned off. I got the smoke heater turned off, and I even turned the laser off for now. I'm going to be using the regular microphone for the computer, and it kind of stinks at times. So I'm trying to keep the noise down. You're going to need a set of these if you're going to be building jigs, at least some way of measurements, but I would say go ahead and get you a set of these. They're like $10. Just a little caliber that you can use to do measurements with. I'm going to re-zero them, and all I'm doing is measuring the size of my part here that I'm wanting to jig. All right. This guy is measuring in at 34.9 millimeters. So I'm going to call that 35 millimeters. Keep in mind, it's 35 millimeters. I'm adding 1/10 of a millimeter to the size of the hole by rounding it up to 35. But you're also going to be adding a little bit to it because of the kerf of the laser. Now, this laser kerf is not enough to be even taken into consideration for this. All that's going to do is ensure that you can get it in and out without having to pick up the whole board and knock it out with a screwdriver or something. So this is where I burned the jig panel. All right. I think this is where a lot of guys are missing the boat. All right. You got to take that and get it out of there. Get it out of your workspace. You don't need that. Okay. All you need now is the file that you are going to make into a jig. And for this particular build, like I said, it's going to be a circle. And according to our measurements, the circle needs to be, what was it, 35 millimeters. 35 millimeters. So I'm going to put me a circle in there. And I'm going to go ahead and go over here and change this file size. And I'm going to make this guy, make sure this unlock is undone, because unless you made a perfect circle, it's probably not going to be a perfect circle. But you're going to need to make it 35 by 35. All right, so this is my circle for my little keychain, medallion, whatever. Okay, two things that I want this jig to do. Okay, I want it to, one, help me line it up perpendicular to make sure it's right up and down. So the way that I'm going to do that is I am going to create myself a little marker, and all I'm going to do is make me a little mark right there. Let me turn that to output so it'll be darker. And now that because I want to be able to point the hole in these round objects and line it up as I put it in there and line it up with this guy, so that it kind of gives me a timing mark to make sure I get them, oriented properly, or at least close to properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that highlighted, and whichever part you click first is the part that's going to move. I'm going to click this circle, and then I'm just going to use the center alignment tool right here. All I want is for this thing here to be in the center and due north of this circle. Okay, once I've done that, then I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to back this guy up because I don't need it to come past the cut. Okay, all that is going to be is a black mark that I can use to line up the little circle that is in this coin, or whatever you want to call it, that I'm fixing to engrave. All right, another thing that you need to take into consideration when making a jig is how are you going to get whatever it is that you're doing out of the hole. If you cut this completely out of a piece of 4.5 millimeter Luan, whatever you cut is going to fall all the way through, and if there's any gap underneath your jig, it's going to be able to move. So you don't want that. So we're going to keep this part here, but we also want to have a thumb hole or a finger hole in this so that we can get our finger in there and be able to pick that out. So what I'm going to do the next is I'm going to make me another circle. And because this is a circle, the easiest way to do it, guys, is to put it on the edge like this so that it doesn't take up a whole lot of room. And I'm just going to make that into a circle. And I'm going to make that guy a 20 by 20. That may be too big. Now that'll work. So I'm going to make that circle a little 20 by 20. And all I want, guys, is a little bit of that crescent on the side of this circle right here, so that when you go to pick these guys up, you can grab it underneath the edge of whatever it is right there and pull it out. All right, so you're going to select the big circle first, because we're wanting to add to the big circle, and then the smaller circle second, because that's the part that's going to be sacrificed and added to the other part of the other circle. Then you're going to use the Boolean feature over here to combine those two shapes into one continual shape. And there you have it. All right. Now, if you want to cut this so that you can use this piece as an insert and space the whatever it is up, then my recommendation would be, before you do this part, go ahead and duplicate that cut. All right. And what I'm about to do here is basically I'm gonna make these two cuts overlap. All right, and then I'm gonna take that guy and that guy, and I'm gonna join those two just like we did a minute ago. But I've still got a second cut right here that's gonna cut that little piece that's here. It's gonna cut it off of it, and then I'm gonna take the remaining portion, which is gonna be kind of a crescent shape right here, and I'm gonna drop it underneath the item to be engraved. And it'll make sense once you see the finished product, guys. But so that's what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to run those cuts. Now, one thing that you may want to do with this especially, since this is two cuts overlapping each other, one of the things that you're going to want to do, go into your optimize settings or optimize the optimization settings and go to remove overlapping lines. Okay, that's going to basically make it to where you don't have to cut all of this twice. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the computer, on the camera now when we actually execute this guy in the laser. But the first thing I need to do is I need to figure out exactly where I want to put this on my jig, because it has to be wherever I put this on that jig is where I'm going to be putting my item that I'm going to engrave. And I'm going to guesstimate that it needs to be about right there. And I'm going to move over to the camera and I'll let you watch the framing and everything over there. All right, so I'm going to go out and frame that up. A little down and to the left. A little more to the left. Bump it up just a fuzz. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm going to do, guys, because this file, I'm wanting this thing to be able to do more than just one of these. All right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replicate this file. So, I'm going to have to jump back to the computer for a second to show you how to do that. All this back and forth is going to really, start to get on my nerves here in a minute. All right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that, guys. You go over here to the array button. And what this is going to do is this is going to help allow you to replicate this design and space them however far apart you want and burn multiples. Okay. And it takes a minute. I'm just holding the button down, guys, because to me, this is just the most effective way of doing it. It's not the fastest way. With this being circles, like I said, I let that little, I let them bump up against each other to save room. And that's why I put that little bubble kind of on the right side, is to give me a little bit more room. So once you get that set, then you can just simply hit the up button here and you can replicate those guys across the work area. Now, I'm not too sure my workspace is going to let me do that many because my board's not that wide, but we'll see. And then you use the Y rows and you go and you can replicate them up this way. So that gives you a total of 24 of these little things that you can do at one time. Now, the problem with doing this is if you do this, you're either going to have to go back and do an array again with this same settings on your spacing and everything to be able to perform this. So it's not a bad idea for your jigs if you do this, and if you do a lot of them like I do, to where you may change your array settings between now and whenever you get ready to do one of these things. It's not a bad idea that if you want to do this, this is your prerogative, but you can take, I don't have a pen with me, so I'm just going to take a picture of the settings. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the little picture here. This is kind of cheating, but this is something that I've run into. And if you don't keep up with it, guys, I'm telling you, you'll wind up doing more work before it's over with. Okay. So I took a picture of this so that I'll have it. All right. Go down here, just create some text, and whatever the total, the X spacing on that file that you just built is, X space, you can do it this way. X spacing is going to be 42, and Y is going to be 4.5. 580. All right. Now, turn that into one of these tool lines that you're not going to be using, like that guy, and leave that here. Go over your cuts. Turn that frame off on that because you're not going to want to frame it. You can leave the show just so you can read it. But that way, guys, if you go in here, and you'll see in a second, I'll show you. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and show you while we're in here. If I decide that I want to do each one of these with a camper on them, if I decide that I want all of these coins to have a camper, all these little things to have a camper on it, and I bring my camper in. Now, you're going to want to align this thing with this circle. The way that you're going to do that is click it, then you'll click the circle, not that circle. You want to click the perfect circle. Do not use the egg-shaped one. Lessons learned, guys. Jeez, this dust is getting me again. Once you got both of them selected, and you always want to pick the one that you want to move first. If you don't, it's going to mess your jig up. And then hit center. All right. Now that we did that, I can go over here to my little camper. And let me back out where you can see this in its full glory here. Click on the camper. Go back to this array button. Go over here. The settings haven't changed. You can look here, 42, Y is 450/80. So we're good. So instead of having to do that centering process on all of these guys, this is all you got to do. Well, nope. Got to adjust the Y. How many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 high. So we'll change that to 4 rows. And then the way you're going to fix this is just going to be on this button here. Just keep bumping it. Just bump it until you get the top one to where it is centered. And if you bump it too much, you'll know, but you want just to get it just where the top one is centered. Now, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, guys. If you're not happy with that, you can play around with it, but I'm pretty sure that is centered. Because if you move it any further, you'll notice that the difference in the between the roof and the edges changes. If you go any lower, it does the same. So, I mean, I'm gonna say that we probably would be about right there. That looks about right to me. Now, you can go in there if you're doing like I do at events and stuff. I just do 1 or 2 at a time, and I just manually do those guys. So, but that's what you're gonna want to do. All right. Now, for the sake of time, guys, because I don't want this video to last that long, we're going to delete these. We're going to pretend we left them, but we're going to delete all of these guys right here. And I'm going to leave 2 of them on here. That way, we can get this done in a reasonable amount of time. All right, back over to the camera. All right, guys. Now that you know how to do it, and you know how to create the array, we're just going to go in here, and I'm going to frame this up doing these 2. All right, that's only going to be 2, and I'm only doing this, guys. I've already got a jig for this. I'm only doing this to show everybody. So, I'm going to make sure that my focus is good on my machine here. Focus is good. And I'm going to go ahead and run these 3 passes just because I had a few snags, and this board, like I said, it does have some knots in it, so. And then, I'll try to run it without the smoke machine on, but it may start choking me out in here. Okay, I'm going to turn some smoke clearing on here. That's getting a little excessive. And watch the smoke go away. And just like that, guys. And the reason it's doing that rocking back and forth thing is because I turned the optimization on and told it to not to do to eliminate overcuts, and it's kind of challenging in this particular instance, but it looks funky the way it's running, but it got it done. And it'll all make sense in a minute why I did this cut this way. To be honest, I probably should have went ahead and just cut both of them and made me a little foothold in the other one too. Okay, I'm gonna have to quit running it like that with all them optimization settings. I'm not digging the way it moves. It scares me. Yeah, I probably would have done just as well off left that instead of doing the eliminating cuts, just let it run circles. It's still taking a while. All right, so what you're gonna do now is I'm gonna take these little pieces out. These little pieces here are going to garbage. These little pieces here are going back in the hole. And the reason is that'll give me something to keep the thing from falling all the way down. Now what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to take these, I'm going to put them on my sander, and I'm going to sand both sides pretty aggressively to try to cause a recess between this piece of wood and that one. Hard to sand those little guys without sending them flying. All right, now, did I turn off my little black mark, or where did it go? Well, all right, I got to put my black mark back on there. Somehow or another, I managed to delete it. I'm not sure how that happened. But so I'm going to have to do this manually now that I did that. Somebody could have told me. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go put my black mark back. I don't know how I did it when I deleted all those boxes. So let me just back this file up. Okay, there's my little black mark. I got a little click happy. I went too deep and apparently deleted my little black marks. But I've hit the back button enough that I can see them again. So I'm going to delete the ones that I don't need. And I'm going to let my little black marks run this time. So I'm just going to go ahead and run those and put those on there so you'll be able to see what I'm doing. All right, guys, got my little black mark back on there, and I'm going to do red and blue just because those are, cool colors. The reason for the little black mark, you can see, is I'm just going to turn that thing with my fingers until I get that, the port where the hook would go. I'm going to try to line that up. Those are just nothing more than a timing mark, okay? If you notice, the hole is just big enough. This doesn't move, but I got a little place there that I can reach in there with my fingertip and flip those guys out. So that way you don't have to try to dig them out or pry them out or flip them upside down and burp them or anything like that. So I've got those two put in there. Now, that's like the third phase of this operation, guys. We've got the jig panel cut. It's snapped into the locking panel. We've got our holes cut, and we've got our whatever we're going to engrave is in place. And guys, like I said, this is a no frame approach. All right. So all I'm going to do now, because we just built this file, All I'm going to do now is I am going to hit the start button and let it go run it. All right. Now I've got the fan system turned off and all that, but the camera over here is recording. And if there's any way possible, I'm going to try to do like a split screen with this or whatever. I did in the last video figure out how to do a picture-to-picture. So you're welcome for that, guys. I'm honing my skills daily. Before you know it, I'll actually might even know what I'm doing. And I'm going to tell you, with these glasses on, that blue dog tag looks black, or blue tag. It looks like it's either black or not even there. But this is a simple jig setup, guys. What I'm going to do, because all the naysayers and no, it doesn't work and you can't use it, and keep in mind, guys, I'm using a $400 machine, 400 and some change. If you use my promo codes and all that they sent me, which I think is pretty awesome. I'm using a $439 machine to do this, and it's not hard. As long as your machine is consistent, you can do it. Just follow my directions, step by step. If you need to, back up, hit rewind, back up, we'll do it again, whatever. But, yeah, that thing looks black with these glasses on, which looks cool, though. I wish I did have some black ones. I'd throw one of them up there. I've got some silver ones, but it's aluminum. So until I get something that'll engrave aluminum, I'm just kind of stuck unless I want to spray it. I could have probably made this engrave both shapes at the same time and saved a little time on this. It's doing a lot of back and forth. So the next volley, I'm going to change the settings and make it just run it back and forth all the way across, guys. But watch what the laser does in the video. I'm hoping I can do like split screen on this or framing a picture in a picture or whatever. But watch what my machine head does once it finishes this engrave. In the camera up here, guys. When it finishes, it's going to go back to the top left corner up there. It's going to be out of my way so that I can grab those coins or key rings or whatever out of there, flip them over, and hit go again, and not have to do any setup. All right, here we go. So it finished those two. I'm going to walk up there, or lean over there, and I'm going to flip them over, and then we're going to burn the other side. The thing that you're going to have to remember, though, is to turn these guys and make sure to use the little mark that we put in the jig file. You're going to want to line that up. Make sure that's lined up with the hole in the little tag. And the reason you're doing that is so that if you flip that thing around, it's the same on both sides. So if you're doing one-sided, I don't guess you would care. But I like from to be oriented right. So all I did was flip them over, guys. Oh, I said I was going to change let's change this. Fill 2.5, what's it? Why is it not going to let me fill them together? It says it's set to fill all at once. Okay, whatever. We're just going to go with it. And now we're doing the other side. So this is going to be a two-sided little tag. So this is like a keychain, a little decorative piece. I'm wasting my inventory to make a video, whatever you want to call it. But I'll put them on a keychain. I'll put them on my keychain display. Somebody will buy them. I mean, I literally think you could have your 5-year-old draw something and then engrave it on a keychain and people would buy it. Seriously. I made so many keychains this past weekend, and pens and pencils, and it was busy. Busier than I thought it would be with the rain and inclement weather. But that's it, guys. I mean, it's you can see us running. I got the camera over here going if it hadn't cut off on me. Well, we're still recording. I'm still waiting on you guys to recommend a good camera for me. Right now, I'm kind of landing on this new Sony, what is it, ZV-1 or something like that. Is my computer froze? My camera looks frozen on my computer. All right, guys, looks like the computer video crashed. Not sure why that happened. That's the first time. So my video capture software crashed. So we're going to be relying entirely on the Nikon now. I probably could have done these a little faster if I'd wanted to, but it's a nice clean engrave. I'm liking the results. And that's another thing, guys. We can kind of show you what this machine's capable of on metal, because this is the first time I've ever hit a piece of any kind of metal with it. And I'm going to run 2 more of these dog tags just to kind of show you. You don't got to do anything. If you set your machine up right, if you cut the jig panels, if you lock the panel into the same location every single time, it makes this like your kid could do it. So I know there's people out there that are having a hard time with this, and I'm not knocking anybody or trashing anybody, but it's not hard, guys. All right, so this is what you'll see is why we have the little hole. That's so you can get your fingertip in there. Pick that guy up. Look at that. Perfectly centered. All right, perfectly centered. All right, got this guy, and it looks black with these glasses on. Perfectly centered. Perfectly centered. All right, 2 new ones. They're blank, guys. They're blank, okay? No cheating. I'm going to lay them in there. I'm going to orient them up with my little timing mark so that I know they are actually north and south the way that I like them. And if that doesn't matter to you guys, you don't have to have the timing mark. You can leave that off. But to me, it matters. All right, so I got 2 new ones in there. All right, guys, what's the next step? There is no step. You just hit start. All right, that's all you got to do. It's that simple. There is no taking and moving your laser to a specific location and lining the laser dot up with a dot on the panel. There is none of that. There is no framing it and making sure that your tool line frames perfectly around your jig panel. There is absolutely none of that. And we're going to even take it a step further here in just a second. And I'm going to take the jig panel out. And I guess I could just like walk around the room and then walk back over, put the jig panel back on there, and we're going to do it again. And show you that it works, guys. And like I said, I don't know why people are having a hard time. I suspect that people are trying to burn the jig panel itself, and then they're trying to immediately, before they attach it, go ahead and make a jig file and burn it in there. And if that's what you're doing, guys, that's not going to work. I mean, yes, you could make it work, but you're going to have to do twice the amount of work because you're going to have to go back and retrace that cut pattern and move it to actually be where it's supposed to be in the workspace. But if you attach my locking jig panel before you cut the holes for your material, then all you got to do is save that file. And you can open that file and go right back to work. So I want to emphasize to you guys, don't overthink this. I know a lot of people are like, oh no, it's just so hard to do multiples, and you can't get everything lined up, and you gotta draw a little bullseye on your jig, and then you gotta take your laser and move over the bullseye, and then you gotta measure from here to that. No, you don't, guys. You absolutely do not have to. That was the whole purpose of creating this. If you still had to do all that extra work that you do doing it that way, why would I have created this? Why would I mean, how in the world would I get away with charging people for it? No, I mean, it's not much, but it does cost. It costs less to buy it than it does to make it. I can promise you that. There was a lot of R&D went into that thing. I burnt through a lot of wood trying to master this and get it to where it was tight and snug and everything fit like it was supposed to be, but yet you can still take it apart without, breaking everything. Because if you get the joints too tight, then it snaps together and won't come apart. All right, so now we're going to go a step further, guys. I'm going to pull these guys completely out of here, and I've got them engraved on one side. And look, they match perfectly, guys. This is how you replicate things. The other side's still blank, so we're going to leave this side exposed so I can remember. Now, I'm going to pull this guy out of here. Take my little pieces. Now, one thing that I would do if I were you guys, the first thing is always remember which side's the front, okay? Because if you flip this over, yeah, that's a problem. But what I would do, and give me just a second and I will show you exactly what I will do. All right, guys, another secret for you. One way to know it's the back is take your panel, put you some blue tape on there, and I use blue tape, not duct tape, and the reason is if I ever do anything that's the same size as this, but it's thicker, and I want it to go down in there deeper, I want to be able to get these out. Take you some blue tape, put on the back side, and just push this guy through until it touches it and sticks. Now keep in mind, we took a sander and I sanded both sides of this thing vigorously to get it to where there's a lip, there's a recess right there. And the reason for that recess is so that when you put this up there and you're engraving it, it has a hole to sit in. So it doesn't move. If you run an air assist, it doesn't push it all over the place. You know, it stays there. I mean, it almost like upside down. Look at there, upside down, guys. All right, that's what you want. And then when you get ready to take them out, they just pop right out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rehome this machine. All right, taking it back to the house. Now I gotta do something with this cable over here. It's getting in the way when I home, so I'll be doing something with that here shortly. All right, it's home now. I'm gonna take my panel, I'm gonna put it back in. It always has to go back exactly where you had it the first time. All right, guys, me and this camera, we're gonna go rounds. Now apparently it's overheating because I turned all my fans off. So anyway, back where I was. Make sure you put this back exactly where it was the time before. One little trick that I will give you, if you don't have anything else, if you don't want to do anything else, get yourself one of these, all right? Put you a mark up there, write on it, do whatever you need to do, but make sure you remember where that goes. You can just take and draw a line from one piece to the other and have a timing mark. That way you know next time you put it on there, those two lines need to be matched up. If not, it's not gonna be in the proper place. That also lets you know what's the back and the front because you won't be able to see the line to mark it up with that one. So another little trick from the Clack Shack, guys. But once you do that, you're gonna take your two little coins, whatever you got, coasters, key rings, key fobs, whatever. Blank side up, of course. And we're gonna put them back in there. Make sure we got them oriented the way we want them. And then y'all pay attention, guys. This is critical. You hit the start button. And when you hit the start button, you burn them. You don't gotta go pointing for any coordinates. You don't gotta go lining anything up, measuring anything. You don't gotta do a whole lot of framing. It's already where it needs to be. That is the whole trick, secret. That is the whole reason that this file jig system even exists. And once these burn, guys, it's gonna run back up to the top left corner up there and I can continue to turn these things out. Now, if your machine does not have a very accurate homing, like when it goes to home and it goes back out, if your machine has variation in it for whatever reason, it will affect this step. You may need to frame one to make sure it's lined up for the initial push out from home position. But I've checked this machine, the home on it is really accurate. I haven't had any problems with it. As long as that cable didn't get snagged on anything over there, we shouldn't have any issues. And we should have a good product that looks just like the other two that I've burned over here. And so now I'm gonna have 4 little camper keychains to put on my keychain rack, and I'm gonna hope that somebody sees them and likes those guys at my next event. But this is the kind of stuff that that these are made for, guys. I could do as many of those on this panel as I could fit on there. You're only limited by basically what you need and the size of your material, the workspace of your machine. Of course, the more of those you add, the longer it's gonna take, but that's your prerogative. So I'm gonna let this finish, guys, and then I'm gonna tell you the ultimate secret to this file system and the way it works. It's the most critical part of the whole thing. I kind of like the way those things burn though. And if you're interested, guys, I'll drop a link to Amazon or where I got those. They're pretty handy. I've been thinking about, you know, putting them on luggage, putting them on like backpacks for kids. I mean, if you've got a elderly Alzheimer's patient or somebody like that in your family, it wouldn't be a bad idea. You could take one of those and make it into a necklace and put decorations on one side, maybe a safety alert. I actually did a diabetic alert thing for a lady the other day with a dog tag. So here we are, guys. Those two were done coming back from the home position, and these two were done on the initial burn. And as you can tell, guys, they're identical. All right, they're the same. My little camper's not running downhill. That is the purpose of the jig system. But now that you've seen the proof, I'm going to tell you the final secret that you've got to remember, or this will not work for you. All right, guys, this is the most important part of this entire operation. If you do not do this part, you will hate yourself. You will really, really, really hate yourself. Don't change anything. The only thing that you might want to change is you might want to go ahead and clear your graphic out if you don't plan on using it in the future. Me personally, I leave it because it doesn't matter. I can go in later and change it. This is the most critical part. Once you have built this file for this jig, go to File, go to Save As, pick your most remembered location, because I've lost jigs, guys, and you will hate yourself for it because you know you got it, but you don't know where the heck you put it. All right, so I'm going to call this circular keychain jig. All right, and I'm saving it in my folder that I have that is named jigs, and there's a lot of different jigs in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that. Oh, wait a minute, let me add this. Enjoy wood, because some machines based on their work area may change your jig files. So if you make a jig on the Enjoy Wood, or if you make a jig on the X tool, it's not a bad idea if you have multiple machines to specify which machine. The way that I've got this set up, if I don't specify, because I have older jig files, I assume X tool. If I do specify, then it'll be in here. Enjoy Wood, you know, D1 Pro, D1, whatever. So, and then you're going to want to hit Save. That save button, guys, is the most important part of the whole thing, because now you can actually close out of your software completely, go to sleep, reboot your computer, pack up your stuff, move to another state, take that panel, put it on there, bring in the file, and have the exact same results as what I just did. So that's it in a nutshell, guys. All right, guys, I hope this helps the ones of you that have been having little issues. I don't know how better to explain it, guys. I mean, I went as deep and as detailed as I think I possibly can. The only other option is for me to for you to come over and let me show you, I guess. Or I don't know. But it works. It works well. Each new machine that I get, I'm going to develop a new kit to fit those machines. If you have a machine that I don't have, I can make them remotely, as long as the person on the other end of the build is pretty good with measurements and, you know, communicating measurements. I don't like to do that because I can't guarantee the file unless I've tested it myself. I do it on occasion because people basically beg and threaten me if I don't do it. So I have done a few, but this jig kit, like I said, do follow my directions. If you have doubts, guys, just favorite the video, and every time you make a jig, go back and watch it. But it works. It'll give you consistent results every time. Now, with the X-Tool D1, there is a variation in those legs, guys. If you buy one of my panel kits, or one of my jig kits, for the X-Tool D1, there's gonna be, you know, your legs may be a little further, a little closer together. I don't know why that is, but it seems like it always happens. Anything real severe, and 99.9% sure there's a problem with your machine. Usually at the most, you'll have a 2 millimeter variation in the width of the legs. Anything other than the width of the legs, and there's a good chance that you've got a problem with your machine. But thanks for coming, guys, and I'll drop the links to these little tags in the description in case you were here just watching a video and decided you wanted some of them. Or if you're one of those people that, you know, looking for some products, I mean, there you go. These things are cheap. It's anodized aluminum. They come in a pack of about 50 or 100, and I think I gave like 10 bucks for them. I sold enough of them this weekend to bought like 5 more packs. So it's one of those things that it's not about how much it costs. It's about what can you put on there. You know, if the kid's got a nickname, or Nana's got a nickname, or the person wants it for their luggage because they travel a lot, or whatever the case may be, that's where the value comes in, is them being able to stand there and tell you, this is what I want on it, and you crank that thing out. So thanks for coming, guys. I hope this helps, and have a good day.